So at first I'm hearing this gunfire from the fields, but then I hear it from the road, and then I hear it from the neighborhood, and then I hear it outside my window. Then I hear shouting, and I understand Arabic. I understood exactly what was happening. Basically, I understood that Hamas has infiltrated our kibbutz, that there are terrorists outside my window, and I'm locked in my house and inside my safe room with two young girls. And I don't know if anyone is going to come to save us.
One of the most gripping accounts about what happened in Israel over the weekend that has just stuck with me, and I can't stop thinking about, was from a reporter for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. His name is Amir Tibon. He lives with his family in a kibbutz near Gaza border, and he spoke to the Atlantic's Yair Rosenberg to tell him the story of how the attack unfolded and how they managed to improbably walk away with their lives. And Yair Rosenberg, who conducted that interview, joins me now. It's good to have you here. It was just a grueling account. To take me through what he told you about how this unfolded.
Yeah, so Amir lives, as you said, right near the Gaza border. It's a few football fields. And they're so close to the Gaza border that they don't have Iron Dome because it would be useless. And so instead, every home by law has a safe room, which is not what you think of as a fancy room. It's just a reinforced concrete room that you put the kids into sleep. And then if you hear rockets, as the parents, you run into that safe room. And
this is because the way that Iron Dome works, the sort of trajectory, it's too close to the border for it to work. Right?
That's how close they are.
Right.
And so what actually saves their lives, ironically, is that they fire mortars at the village before they invade on foot. And so they hear the sound of the mortar. They think, OK, this is another rocket attack. The kids are sleeping in the safe room. We'll run into the safe room and we'll wait it out like we usually do. And then maybe as soon as there's a lull, we'll pick up and go. And they're starting to pack in the safe room, getting ready to do that. And then, as you heard, Amir says, then he hears gunfire that they never hear, right? That shouldn't be there. And it gets closer and closer. And Amir, you need to understand, as a reporter, he speaks Arabic. He wrote a biography of the Palestinian president. And he knows, once he hears them talking, what is going on, which is that there are literally terrorists in his house. They're on a group text with the other families in the kibbutz. And everyone's like, there are terrorists inside my house. And so then he texts his colleague, who does the military affairs correspondent for Haaretz, and he says, this is going on in my house. And his colleague writes back and says, yes, Amir, I know they're in your house, but they're actually in not just everybody's houses, they're in all of the border communities. And that's when Amir got very, very frightened, because then he realized, okay, it's one place the army could dispatch someone, maybe it's like one infiltration. If it's an entire border, there's no way they can get to us.
This sort of palpable sense that comes through here, which is just the shock of the scale of the infiltration, and just also a sense that this sort of reliance or faith in the government that the army would be nearby, and the realization that it is not, that it is at the moment overwhelmed and not there.
Yes.
And the psychology of calling his father, who was a retired.
Yeah, so that's where it goes. He texts his colleague and then he texts his father and tells him what's going on. And his parents say they're in Tel Aviv. They're an hour and 20 minutes away by car. They say, we're coming. Parents are in their 60s. And they just get on the road. And his father's a retired general, and he only has a pistol because Israel does not, in fact, hand out guns to just anybody, including retired service members. And so but he has a pistol, and he makes his way there. And as the story goes, they keep encountering survivors, ambushes, all these things.
They go through the music festival.
They go through they pick up people who are walking away barefoot from the music festival, and they take them to safety. So they don't just keep going straight. What I find somewhat remarkable when I heard it is that if it was my kid, maybe I would just keep going straight. Right. And these people are alive, they'll be OK or something like that. But every single person, they see a wounded soldier. They see these refugees. These people have been injured at the music festival but are still alive. And they keep taking them to safety. Eventually, they give away their car to take some people to the hospital. So how does Amir's dad eventually get to Nahal Oz, this place where his son is and his granddaughters are? He bumps into another retired Israeli general who also just showed up because nobody else was there. Right. And he had a civilian car. It's not a Jeep. It's not armored. There's nothing like that. It's just like a normal car you drive to work. And they get on the road, and they just drive together. They meet up with some special forces who are preparing to go house to house, which is the most dangerous thing you can do in counterterrorism, try to get people out. And they link up, and as Amir tells it, right, they can tell that something's going on because now there's more gunfire, but there are two kinds of guns. And so they know there's a battle, right? But you know what's going to happen, and it's getting closer and closer and closer to them. And then they hear his father's voice, and his daughter says, grandfather is here. Right, and then they know they're safe.
I want to read to you from the account. Just hearing the gunfire getting closer and closer. The girls had fallen asleep, and now they woke up. I think it's 2 p.m. They haven't had anything to eat since last night. There's no light. We don't have cell phones anymore, so we can't even show them our faces. And there's one sentence that is keeping them from falling apart and starting to cry. I'm telling them grandfather is coming. I tell them if we stay quiet, your grandfather will come and get us out of here. And at 4 p.m., after 10 hours like this, we hear a long bang on the window. And we hear the voice of my father. Galia, our oldest daughter, says, Saba Higeya, grandfather is here. And that's when we all just start crying, and that's when we knew we were safe. He has very strong thoughts about the security failure.
Yes.
This is obviously someone who is a journalist. He's a learned man. He's a very critical Netanyahu government. I think in the interview he calls him the worst government Israel's ever had. I think he uses that phrase. But there is a sense of just that he says there was a social contract that we would live here and the government would protect us, and they failed in that social contract.
Yes. So many countries, not just Israel, one of the ways you secure your borders is you put people on the borders, because the idea is, and this is something that my wife, who's a Talmud professor, pointed out, is in the Talmud. They say that you don't destroy a village on the border, even if it's extremely sinful, because then the border itself will erode and you might get invaded. Right. So this is a general strategic thing. So you put citizens on the border, but then you have to protect them, obviously, if they're there. Right. So no one's going to encroach on your land while people are there unless they want to attack. And they expected, right, that the army would come. And the army, not only did it stop, it didn't stop people from getting in. So one of the things he talks about in the piece is that there was a way that people were afraid that they would be attacked, but it wasn't on the ground, it was underground. In 2014, the last time Hamas and Israel fought on the ground in a ground invasion into Gaza, Israel discovered a ton of tunnels.
The tunnels, and this was talked about a lot by Israeli politicians and American politicians, the tunnels, the tunnels, the tunnels.
And the irony is they understood, but they didn't understand. They understood that these were, they got intelligence, and they realized, oh, these tunnels are literally under communities like Amir's, and the goal was to literally pop up all at once. The intelligence was 200 people all at once, and just mass killing civilians, and maybe kidnap some people. And in other words, exactly what we saw 9 years later. Basically, but instead of going underground, they just came over the border. So what happened? Israel spent a lot of money closing all those tunnels, building effectively an underground wall. But they didn't actually secure above ground nearly as well as they thought, right? And that is why you end up with just a ground invasion right on land. And so they understood the tunnels were a threat, but I think this is something important to understand. Amir did not say this. This is me talking to you as a reporter and analyst. You have this intelligence in 2014 that they sort of uncovered by dumb luck, because they go into this ground war with Hamas and discover that Hamas was just about to execute this plan, and they find these tunnels. They wanted to mass kill civilians on the border, and through dumb luck, another Netanyahu government escaped that. But they were almost sleepwalking into that. Right? And at the time, I think a lot of reporters and analysts sort of dismissed it, because they said, okay, they found this intelligence. Maybe Hamas wasn't serious. Maybe it was just a plan. Or maybe it's the IDF or the security services releasing something to scaremonger, because security services do that, right, to reinforce the need for their existence. But now we know that actually they just planned for another 9 years, and then they did it a different way.
Yair Rosenberg, who conducted that amazing interview in The Atlantic. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.